And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Callum, call sign M0MCX, and we've got, sitting in the green room, waiting to come and see us, Roly ZL1BQD, who, well, I'll let him explain what he does and what he's done in the past. But what I want to do tonight, and what I've prepped Roly for, is to understand the sort of three levels of DXpedition that go on, why they go wrong sometimes. There's the one-man thing. There's the kind of multi-man, easy climate, four-man guys, you know, into the Pacific Island, you know, with coconut trees, whatever. And then there's the really difficult stuff that people try and pull off. Bouvet's one, Peter the First, is it? St. Peter Island, I can't remember the official name of it. Some of them have been successful. Some of them haven't. But without further ado, let's get Roly on board, and then we can talk about things. Good evening, young Roly. How are you?
G'day. How are you, Kel?
I caught you on the hop there, did I?
You caught me on the hop with my morning coffee, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, very good indeed. So, I mean, one of the things I want... I do want to cover what goes wrong sometimes, because, I mean, why not, really? It's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But let's just inspire some people with some of the stuff you've done. If you go back over the last few islands that you've lit up, all right, and just tell us some of the things you've done, and have you enjoyed it, and what did you get out of it, and that sort of thing. And then I'll make some notes here, and we can query you on a couple of things afterwards. So,
well, just a couple of...
Give us some of the islands you've been to.
Right, yeah. Well, just a couple of disclosures before we start. You know, my opinion is my opinion. So there you go.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea is one which I frequent quite often. Also Solomon Islands, Samoa, Cook Islands, and those would be probably the four which I frequent most often. Yeah. And then you can throw in one or two not so frequent ones, like Timor-Leste.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of things like that. Yeah.
So
mostly around the Pacific, Melanesia, Micronesia type area.
Yeah, what we can tell folks is that because of some of the work you've done in the past, it's been extremely handy to get to these places, hasn't it?
Yeah, yes. In a previous life before I retired.
Yeah. Now, what I do want to hear, right, is that DXpedition that did go wrong, and this is with the concrete boat, right?
Well, it was up to the Kermadec Islands, and
right.
Yeah, and that's 600 miles in old money north of New Zealand. And to get there, we took a yacht, a ferrous cement yacht, and sailed up to Kermadec Islands. And nothing wrong with that, no problem at all. In fact, sailing up was completely uneventful. The problem is when you're up into the tropics or near tropics, cyclones are very frequent and nasty things.
Yeah.
And while we're on the island, where all the operators and the Department of Conservation guys that we took up with us,
yes,
we were all on the island, and the cyclone was coming down. Now, I'm not a yachty or a captain of a boat, but I believe the idea is to hop aboard your boat and run ahead of the storm and keep ahead of the storm, and to when the storm blows out, come back home again.
Okay.
Well, on this particular occasion, the skipper decided to go around on the other side of the island and shelter in a cove, which was fine, but until the storm went over the island, looked down, saw this little boat and said, "Oh,
I'll see that.
We can have a bit of fun with that." Picked the boat up and threw it up onto the rocks. And so, oh dear, we now have 3 amateur radio operators on a very, very rare location, stuck there and not knowing what to do.
Yeah. Now, your Gale was licensed, well, she still is licensed.
Yeah.
But didn't you communicate back with her back
Yes,
home?
yes. In fact, one of the reasons why Gail, my wife, got her license, ZL1 Foxtrot Victoria. Yes, it's a 2-letter call, and I've got a 3-letter call, but that's just we'll keep that domestic, shall we?
Okay.
One of the reasons why she got a license was in those days you didn't have cell phones and email and all that sort of nice stuff that we have nowadays.
Yeah.
So the only way in which we could keep in contact was via amateur radio. So she got her license so that wherever I was, whether it's down at the Auckland Islands or Kermadec or Tokelau Islands, Rotuma Island, and those days, she was able to. We were able to set up a schedule and contact each other, and I could speak to her and speak to the kids, and keep in touch.
Yeah. Did you? So, what call sign would you have used when you were calling her? Because you didn't want to give away, presumably, you were the DX.
No. In fact, a little bit surreptitious. You go. In those days, I also, because I was a local ICOM agency for New Zealand in those days, but we had the business had an experimental call sign, ZL1 X-ray Sierra Victor.
Okay.
And so, it was technically legal. So we'd go off to a frequency which we had allocated, or preset. I set all my radio gear up. I set that up at home for Gail, and all she had to do is just switch it on, pick the microphone up at the right time, and ZL1 X-ray Sierra Victor. You're there, sweetheart.
Lovely. And would you pick? I mean, that was 600 miles. So did you do like 20 meters or 40?
Well, mainly 40 meters. 40 meters seemed to work quite well for us over that distance. Yeah. And I mean, it's only 5-10 minutes, but it's enough just to sort of touch base,
So when the boat sank, then presumably you had to get on the ham radio.
Actually, the initial contact was where I had an ICOM 720 in those days, and if you knew. Being the agency, I certainly knew where the mystery diode was, which you could go click and transceive all mode. So initially, we were in touch with the ship-to-shore radio back in New Zealand, right?
Like,
and then they alerted Gail that there's a problem, and then Gail said, "Oh, right, I bet you he'll be calling me on the ham radio frequencies." And, we set that up, and to her credit, she did very well and tried to arrange the New Zealand Navy to come and pick us up at first, and they were going to send up a whatever they send up. That was going to cost an arm and a left leg, and with a lot of researching and so on, she found that there was a Tongan freighter coming down from Tonga to New Zealand, and it was empty. It didn't have any cargo on board, and persuaded them to divert a little and pick up these guys off Roll Island. And if you do that, there's half a pig in it for you. So
a pig, lovely. Okay, all right. So let's start off small, Roly. So 15 years ago, when you were doing some of this stuff, you would take a radio, right? Have you always been mains powered, or did you because I remember you said you used to sort of grab locally like a car battery or something.
Yes. In fact, when I first started going up to Papua New Guinea in 2000, so that's what, 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Goodness gracious. Okay, that doesn't seem like that. Well, what I do is I take my equipment, and I had in those days, I think it was an ICOM 730, was it? One of the small ICOMs anyway.
Okay.
And then in later times, I got myself a KX3, which is a small alleycraft job. A KX3 plus a 100-watt amplifier.
Okay.
bundled together to be less weight and less cumbersome than the single icon deal. And what I would do is I would actually, when I got there, I'd go down to the local supplier and buy a brand new marine grade type battery.
Yes. Okay.
And a charger, and then when I left the end of the DXpedition, I just leave that with the guys and say, "Here's a present for your village."
Yeah, nice. And so, at what point in the time have you taken diesel generators then? When it's been like a multi-op thing?
Yes, I mean, I in all the DXpeditions I've done, which is 35 now, to 28 different countries.
Yeah.
The only one that we've actually taken diesel generator with was down to the Auckland Islands, because there's no infrastructure down there that we could use, so we had to take diesel generators down there.
Yeah.
Now the island
one.
Yeah. I think it was one of these Honda. Fairly portable.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, the generator wasn't the problem. It's the drums of diesel.
Of course,
you got to have as well.
How long were you down there for?
Well, we're down there for 12 days, I think it was.
Yeah, okay.
And now when you got a 3 operators hammering away flat out, that we did have a couple of amplifiers which we used sparingly because of the fuel requirement. But what we did there, we actually left the diesel on board the boat, and we
grabbed it when you needed it.
Yeah, grabbed it when we needed it into portable jerry cans,
Yes,
and brought it ashore. Now, unlike some of these very, very remote places like Yabuves and so on like that,
yes,
Enderby Island in the Auckland Islands has a very, very nice beach, and it's calm. It was real easy going. So
drive up
from that point of view, it was quite easy to use a rubber Zodiac and put the generator in and get it ashore.
Yeah.
And we also had the services of 3 or 4 of the Department of Conservation guys
who came
plus 3 amateurs,
Yeah.
So we had plenty of manpower to be able to handle this sort of stuff, But the biggest problem was really the diesel.
The physical,
not the generators, surprisingly.
Okay, fine. Let's just picture this then. So you've got 3 of you on this island, and obviously you can't work for that amount of time 24/7. Would you be 2 on, 1 off, or would you stop together for meals? How did you do that?
Well, we kept some very, very close eye on the propagation, what was actually happening. So the Auckland Islands is right on the Antarctic Circle, so it's right in a rural zone. So it's when we start talking about propagation, all the rules of normal propagation go right out the door.
I've heard about this.
It's quite different indeed, and there'd be times in the day if you had an auroral display going on.
Yes,
your comms every band is absolutely dead.
Right. Okay.
So
it just freezes it up.
Yeah. It's just nobody home. So great, nobody home. Let's grab some sleep, or grab some meals, or grab or whatever is necessary. Maintain the station, make sure it's okay, and we'll just keep an eye on it. Wait for the bands to come back again and get going. So.
And
a lot of it was played by ear as we went.
Yeah, and that's not as far south as 60 degrees south, is it?
No, it's I can't remember. 40.
A bit further up. I'll let someone on the live chat work.
Yeah, it's pretty much south anyway. That's the Auckland Islands.
Yeah. Okay. And back to the gear then. You did take some amplifiers on that.
Yes, we did. from a one, we'll disregard the big time stuff, but from a one-man DXpedition and a small DXpedition type thing, I'm a little bit ambivalent about amplifiers and the need for them.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, in many ways, if you're not careful and so on that, where your amplifier can be more of a nuisance to you than not. In other words, you're making too much noise. You're being heard too well. And being heard too well means that every man and his dog around the globe is hearing you, and they're all coming back to you all at once. Now, we always use split frequency. You soon find out that you have no choice other than use split frequency.
Okay,
that's no problem at all. But I found that one little secret in keeping the QRM at the reasonable sort of levels is to actually decrease your power. And those that can't hear you stop calling you after. Well, sort of.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will call you on speculation.
Yeah, that you might.
And all they're doing, they can't hear you. They're calling you on spec. And I don't know what they're going to do if I actually went back to them, because they would never hear you.
Yeah. So the amount
but it does actually bring the QRM level down a little.
Fine. So the amount of power is almost proportional to how big the pileup is.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Fine.
Yes, indeed. The only one reasonable advantage of having a bit of power is to keep the band police in order sometimes, or you just have a listen to your frequency and see what's going on your transmit. Just flick it over and heck, all these band police there are telling everybody what to do and how to
to do it,
and then you got 2 or 3 band police arguing amongst themselves. Well, that doesn't happen. Guys, if those that are watching at the moment, if you want to know what the band police is, Callum has just put out a decent video about band police and so on. It's quite it's amusing, but it is a lot of truth and reality in there as well.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Nathan wanted to know, when you were bringing your gear ashore, like the KX3 or K3 or whatever else, did you put them in like Pelican cases or Peli case, or whatever they're called?
Yes, indeed. That's a absolute necessity. In fact, every time I've been up to the Tokelau Islands, you get a boat from Samoa, from Apia and Samoa. 2 days later, you arrive at the Tokelau Islands. But the boat can only anchor outside of the reef that surrounds the island.
Right.
Now, the New Zealand Navy have blasted a hole through the reef where they can get their where they can come out with their longboats or their boats and pick you up off the ship.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't yet been able to get onto through the reef and onto land without being tipped out.
Never.
Yeah.
Right,
So
there's a bit of a wave and stuff.
Yeah. You just get the boat side on, or whatever.
Yeah. So these
whether it's deliberate welcome to the Tokelau's or not, I'm not sure. But often you're
fairly reliable. They clip all the way around and stuff, are they? And they've got like a rubber seal.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Then many a time my gear has got onto the island before me, just tipped out, and away it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. And then so let's talk. All right. So you've got an opinion on amplifiers. We'll scale this up in a minute just for fun. See what happens. I assume it doesn't really matter what radio you take. Not in the modern day. They'll all work, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This whole paranoia that we all have about what radio we want. I assume, though, if you are super portable, you want something that has a low current draw when you're not transmitting. Yeah. And, you want the basic controls. And
yes, you do. I mean, we're absolutely spoiled for choice nowadays. Yeah, with all your band scopes and things like that. And in fact, if you got a radio with a band scope on it, that's and you know how to use it. That's fabulous. But
Yeah.
yeah, we are sport for choice nowadays for sure.
Yeah.
Basically anything you take is going to work.
That's right. Yeah, it's half the size of a shoebox and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to be able to fiddle around with it.
Yeah.
In terms of backup, did you ever have like a spare HF radio with you when you were doing a one-man show, or you just thought, well, if it breaks, it breaks?
Didn't have that sort of luxury when I'm by myself. If it breaks, it breaks.
Yeah. If there's three of you, at least you've got 3 stations, though.
Yes, that's true. I've been fortunate, I guess, in that I've never ever had a problem.
Okay, really?
With breaking down a gear. I've had a problem where gear closes down under heat.
Uh-huh.
But well, that's easily once you know what's going on there, you ventilate, you know. But if you can,
yeah.
But
okay, so back to we've got the rig, we've got you on the island. We'll come back to amplifiers in a bit, but so 20 years ago, what were people using then on the antenna front for the small, intermediate 3-man tropical island type thing? I'm not talking about the equivalent of BA and helicopters.
No.
Dipoles?
Once again, you know, it goes back a stage, to be honest, Cal, and that is you've got to get your gear to wherever you're going.
Yes,
and that includes will include some sort of air transportation. So you're hardly likely to be able to put a 5-element multi-stacked Yagi in the overhead locker of a you know. Neither do you want to check such a thing in, because the freight costs are enormous. They really are now, and even more so nowadays. And then there's another subtle thing which you don't. Not too many people know this unless they've had the experience.
Okay.
And that is, many of these overseas destinations, they expect their visitors to have a suitcase, and that's it. Suitcase and a backpack, maybe.
Yeah.
If you come there with yet another bag or yet another package and so on, they all of a sudden they get very interested and want to know what it is, because there's a chance to get a bit of tax or a few dollars or something like that.
Yeah.
So you know. And we've gone down this path, haven't we, with the DX Commander and so on like that.
Yeah.
When the DX Commander Expedition was available, that neatly fits inside my suitcase, right? Out of sight, out of mind, no further problem along those sort of
you
lines.
just wander in,
Yeah, but the freight is enormous nowadays. So, and to be honest, with the band conditions the way they are nowadays, with 10 and 15 meters starting to come up like that, goodness, I'm out in the Poda Park just about every day with an end-fed half-wave piece of wire slung up into a tree, and I can make as many contacts as I wish on 10, 15 meters. Single sideband, CW, FT8, and so on. No trouble at all.
Yeah.
So I have done the 3-element Yagi thing. To be honest, it was a pain in the neck, and whether you get any good bang for your bucks out of it, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The advantage, the very definite advantage, perhaps, with it was in East Timor.
Yes.
We're right next door to Indonesia.
Uh-huh.
And Indonesia, some of those Indonesian stations are huge. They've got big fat signals. Yeah. So being able to get a little bit of back to front with the Yagi was helpful.
Yes.
Not essential, but helpful.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Other than that, wire antennas, it's absolutely amazing what a lump of wire slung up into a tree can do. And
to be honest,
about
a young lad, you would give him I don't know, a bar of chocolate to or something, and he'd run up the
Yeah,
tree for you.
it was a little less PC than that. Lucky Strike cigarette, packet of Lucky Strike cigarette in your top pocket there. That was advertising to say, look, I'm looking for a 12-year-old kid that can climb that coconut tree. And yeah. So
Okay.
I mean, that's going to go down well in the comments, I know, but however.
Well, whatever. Now, if you...
Your antennas, to be honest, Cal, I don't think the DXpedition needs to be doing the heavy lifting. It's the guys at the other end that should be doing the heavy lifting. So if you really want to get hold of a DXpedition, make sure that your home station receive antennas are bang on, and you'll have no problems at all.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Mm.
All right, well, now that you know, let's say I waved a magic wand and you're now 23 years younger, Roly. If I did that,
I
you'd be switching
remember
off
that.
your computer and going out clubbing probably. But
Yeah,
now
I
that
remember
with
that.
the different technology we've got now to what we had 23 years ago, for instance, and you had a little 3-man outfit, and you were going to do this again, what would have changed now to then?
Well, the biggest change, I guess, is this FT8 business.
Okay.
We didn't have FT8 or any of the digital modes in those days, except RTTY.
Yeah, RTTY. Yeah.
And so it was all SSB and CW.
Yes.
Which is fine. I don't mind that at all. I love it. In fact, CW is my first choice of mode. If you ask me, because I'm very comfortable with that.
That's right.
That's just my thing. The biggest thing nowadays is, and I know why. I mean, we've just come out of a few years of mediocre sort of propagation, and now we're coming up onto the top of a decent cycle. And so while the conditions were poor and so on, like FT8 was brilliant. I mean, it kept people on the air and things like that. Yeah. I only wish now that people would not abandon the FT8, but at least go have a look at sideband and CW and get that going again. Because
you would have been surprised yesterday. Yesterday, Jonathan Sawyer called me. In fact, with a screenshot, he just spotted me on the reverse beacon network on CW, Roly.
How did that happen?
Because I was actually mucking around with it. It was going to be my secret. And within 5 minutes, I'm getting people going, what are you doing on CW?
I don't know, but whatever the keyboard says, yeah.
All right, so fine. Ignoring the mode, I suppose 23 years ago, you always used a pad for your logging, didn't you, in columns, and you'd put the time at the top of each column. And you come. Have you got one knocking around or not?
Yeah, just a sec. Yeah, we can do that. I think if I switch to there and do something like that.
A tiny bit out of focus at the moment, Roly, on the overhead. There we are. That's perfect. Oh, yeah, okay.
Do you?
Yeah, hang on. I just want to find out how to make you bigger. Not that button. No. Whatever. I don't know how to. I don't know how to, but okay.
All right, well...
at least zoom that up. Yeah, okay. So do you put the time at the top of the column?
No, on this particular column here, this is the time where I start that row.
Oh,
so in this particular case, it's 0303, and there's my first contact, second contact, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9, 10 contacts across.
Then you come back.
Then they're back there. Now what's the time? 0309.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
0311, so it took me 2 minutes to get that line done there. And this is all on 10 meters single sideband, and looks like a whole string of Japanese, a few Russian stations in here, etc. The colors, meaning the yellow has been, I think, QSL'd, returned.
Right.
And I think that the red ones, they might have had a donation or something like that inside the envelope. Or,
yeah, it's okay. Very nice. Yeah.
I can't remember what the colours are, but and that goes on for page after page after page after page.
Amazing. Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, not a lot could go wrong with a book like that, can it? You got a laptop.
It can, and
could you swap cameras again? Do I need to see that? You are out of focus, but we can just watch your head again now, mate.
Okay. One of the biggest problems I found. One of the biggest
button look, Roly. No, not that one. Maybe you can see your bloody face. That'll do.
Okay, there you go. Or I could do
picture in picture.
There you go. One of the there we go. One of the big problems that I found up in the islands is that I put a bit of suntan stuff on your arms.
Yeah.
And then you put your arm down on your logbook as you're writing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now after several years of the logbooks, it's just all smeared into one glorious Technicolor.
Yeah. Now, do you use a laptop for your little DXpeditions nowadays?
Yes, I do. Nowadays, you use a laptop, and it's just a simple. In fact, either a laptop or even my phone. There's some really good apps that you can use for your phone, and it does it all for you.
Yeah.
HamRS is the one I use. And when you're finished, you just press the button, which is export that ADIF file, please, to LOTW or EQSL or wherever you want to go, and you're done. So, from that point of view, the changes have been tremendous.
Yeah.
From writing everything in paper log.
People are looking for instant log confirms these days, aren't they?
Well, yes, I mean, they are available. I think the instant log confirm type mentality is, did I actually make it through the QRM? I'm not sure if I'm in the log. This is my only chance to get Sable Island or Peter Island, or my only chance to get Papua New Guinea. And goodness, am I in the log? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, hop onto whatever it is, and you can check to see if you are in the log.
But that relies on the DXpedition and having an internet connection, of course.
It does. It relies on. There's all sorts of factors involved there, and one of which is a decent internet connection, and that's not always. Not always a give me. We. In the UK, US, New Zealand, Australia, and so on like that, we're blessed with decent sort of internet and that sort of stuff. That's not the case at all on most of the islands. You're lucky if you get dial-up speed and so on like that.
That's right.
You're very lucky.
Yeah.
And so, what can you do with dial-up speed? Not a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe check a couple of emails and that's it.
Well, yeah. Okay, so there is a class of DXpedition. Oh, I tell you what, we haven't finished. So we've done what differences and what changes are there we were talking about, and you said FT8. But in the modern, so 23 years ago, you presumably used to think, ideally we need a linear, because that's just, what the last 10, 15 years people have been doing. And you're saying effectively what the linear allowed you to do is to control the band piece on your frequency on the one hand. And it just gives you a little bit of cut, I suppose. But it had the downside that the amount of pile-up was proportional to the amount of power you were using. All right. So if you had to do all over again, would you say, look, I just don't need these bloody linears? Or what? Or would you, in some cases, like on the lower bands, for instance?
No, I wouldn't wipe out a linear completely.
Yeah.
It's simply because of the low bands. For the 160, 80 meters, 40 meters, yes, you do need a bit of grunt to get out. But the other thing is you still got to feed these linears with they do consume power,
a lot
and
of power.
if you a lot of power, and so if you are reliant on diesel and things like that, or you got to use it carefully. And to be honest, really from not from the DXpedition point of view, but from the punter's point of view, your end, how can I put this? Operating skill counts more than a bit of power, to be honest.
Right.
For instance, the guy I'm operating split frequency. Now, I still do this even now. In fact, I was chasing the guys up in Sable Island there, the other CY0S, is it? And they were using split frequency. So what I do is I spend at least 20 minutes before I even go anywhere near the key, just listening and learning the way in which these guys are operating.
I did the DXpedition, yeah.
And I say, okay, and if you've got a band scope on your modern transceivers now, that really makes it quite easy.
Yeah.
Spread your band scope right out and then say, oh, look, okay, he's picked up that guy who's he's loud. Wonder who's he going to pick up next? Or he's picked up another loud station, which is up a little bit.
Okay, so he might just be going clockwise.
Well, I see what he's doing. He's picking up fairly loud stations, creaming off the loud stuff, and he's incrementing up by about a few cycles.
Yeah.
All right. So he's going to. Oh, he's topped out up there. Okay.
He'll go back down.
He's rewound and he's starting up again.
Yeah.
I see what he's going to do. So I reckon that he's going to be listening here.
Yeah.
In the next light. Yeah. So I set myself up and I'm ready and I bing. Now, I'm not the loudest. I know I'm not the loudest. But I just happen to be bang on where he was listening.
Yeah. And on CW, you make yourself easy to read. And voice.
And even on phone.
By the way, you've got a really nice way of saying ZL1BQD. And I hear you sometimes, 3 and 1 on SSB, where I shouldn't hear you. A lot of other operators I wouldn't have heard. So there's a technique in using as much smoke in that radio and via the microphone if you're on SSB.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And these are skills which you learn. But, if you learn those skills and you take the time, and I assure you that 20 minutes spent just learning what the DX station is doing, you can almost anticipate him. You can almost feel him turning the VFO. Right. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
That pays dividends, that's for sure.
Let's get back to that 3-man island thing. And that could be a 3-man island in Scotland, guys. Could be,
could be anywhere.
Down to Cornwall. Maybe, lucky you've got, a station wagon or a state car. You can fill it up, which is probably the equivalent of about 4 rubber boats, a couple of 100 meters each. What would you take now then?
Well, I guess if you got 3 people, that ups the quantum quite a bit. Remember, with a single man thing is whatever I can get into my backpack or into the suitcase I can carry. Now that I've got another guy with me or another 2 guys, we can share the load.
Okay.
And so now that allows you to perhaps, instead of taking a Aircraft KX3, little wee thing which will pack into the back, maybe I can take with your 10 watts limitation of your KX3 plus an amplifier if you got one. Maybe now you might contemplate taking a IC7300 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
With your 100 watts and all modes, all bands, all in the one
ready
box.
To rock. Yeah.
Yeah, ready to rock.
Laptop.
A simple laptop. Laptops are very cheap nowadays. Comparatively.
Where would you get your power from now in a modern day, Roly?
Well,
a couple of 200 amp hour lithium specials.
Yeah, just about everywhere where I go, there is power available. But if you're going to rely on local power, then you're going to be bitterly disappointed.
Okay.
Because
he'll be on off.
For instance, yes, it's on off, but it's not only on off; it's very dirty as well.
Okay.
And that's going to cause you all sorts of havoc.
Yeah.
So
what I get a battery as well then.
Yeah, what I normally do is I'll take a reasonably sized lithium-ion type battery, because they're nice and light nowadays. So you can whatever. Once again, you're limited to what you can take on an aircraft.
Yeah.
So you have to do your homework first and say, well, what batteries can I take on this aircraft? And what will they allow?
Yeah.
And that's a minefield to try and walk through too. Everybody seems to have their own different opinion on that. Even if you've got your battery with a sticker which says aviation approved on the outside of it, that still doesn't seem to matter too much.
Yeah.
So I'll take as big a battery as I possibly can, and a small charger, and then even then on the DXpedition, I'll still run a rig off the battery, even if local power is available.
Yeah,
and using the battery as a buffer.
Oh, I see. And a little power supply as well, then, until you're feeding the power supply into the battery, into the radio, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now, also in the modern day. Now, I know you're a bit of a DX commander. You like DX Commander, but forget DX Commander. What options are there for people on the antenna front, apart from a palm tree and a dipole?
Palm tree and the dipole does work, of course, but the end-fed half waves work extremely well as also.
Yeah.
And you can configure, that's a bit of a mouthful, an end-fed half wave in all sorts of configurations, a sloper or an inverted V or whatever. So whatever you have available,
yeah.
There you go. Now I'm a little bit spoiled when I go into PNG, and that I got a 200-foot tower that I can sling a dipole from the top. It's a normal broadcast tower that we use there. So I send one of the boys up there and say, sling this dipole up there for me.
Yeah,
and that works extremely well. Likewise, it works extremely well to hold the end of a end-fed half wave.
Of course, that's right.
As a sloper.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Now, have you ever? I watched. I've seen some of the pictures of Peter. Is it Peter the First Island? St. Peter Island? I can't remember. I've seen pictures of Bouvet and a couple of others, what I call 60 degrees south and below, where it's effectively you're in the Arctic or the Antarctic, and you have effectively glaciers or rubble. They're rocks the size of shoe boxes. Have you ever done anything like that?
That's what your approach to Kermadec Islands looks like. Now that's subtropical, but that's the way in which you get onto the island.
Yeah.
Hold on for dear life. Sorry about the quality of the pictures, guys.
They're actually fine, mate. They're actually fine. You might be able to sort of.
These are 40. These are 40-year-old pictures.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're hanging on to. Osh would have a field day with you now doing this sort of thing nowadays. But there you go. That's what you're trying to get up.
Yeah. Goodness. Yes, that's
Now
it.
that's pretty rugged and so on like that. Rugged
That goes
coastline
right
there.
to the top of the hill, doesn't it, this thing?
No, it just takes that gets you out of the boat up to that little shed there, and you can see the derrick.
Oh, it's a
You see
derrick.
this derrick here,
Yeah.
holding our gear here, and winching it up to this platform here.
Yeah, fine.
From there, we walked up a hill, then over the top of the hill, over to the weather station. But
Yeah.
I mean that was tough going. You had to time the swell,
Yeah.
so that
On the hook.
you and the hook were together, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, those are probably extreme, and if you're going to do something like that, then you certainly would not do that by yourself. You'd need somebody else with you.
Okay, yeah, fine. Show us some of the other pictures, and then I've got a couple of other things I want to talk about. Okay, that's the derrick. That's Kermadec as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the Kermadec Islands. I don't know if they've got anything from Auckland Islands handy here at the moment.
No, don't worry, that's fine. It's just nice to see your pictures.
I mean, that looks like it's idyllic and nice and calm, but in fact, you know, there's big swell coming through here. There's some swell there, and
oh yes,
that's the we were fortunate in that we didn't have to take generators here because we had generator power supplied on the island.
Yeah, nice.
We had a spare wool shed, I think they call it.
Yeah.
So there we go. We had a 3-element Yagi up on there in the Kermadec. So it's not very high off the ground because just behind these Norfolk pines here,
yes,
that drops off down into the ocean.
Okay.
Or 200 feet.
So that's fine. That can give you a bit of an advantage.
And we had these Norfolk pine trees here. They were very good masts to sling up 80 meters and 160 meters into. Yeah. Okay. Obviously using Nikon 720 in those days, and that's me many years ago. And we will go back to there.
Very good. Okay, so we weren't in the planning room for any of these, what I call Arctic things. I'm not quite sure in the whole of my lifetime I would actually volunteer to do that. You'd have to be nuts, in my opinion. I'd take my hat off to them. But from just playing as an armchair man, where do you think some of these, just by maybe watching the videos or something, do you think in the main they've got it right?
Kel, it's very, very difficult to know not being there. And I've spoken on a couple of occasions to one of our ZL operators here who had been on a previous DXpedition to Bouvet.
Yeah.
And that previous DXpedition, you know, all intents and purposes, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Now,
did they helicopter on?
I'm not sure. I've never asked Jackie about that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to helicopter thing, I mean, the expenses that are incurred here are absolutely phenomenal. And in many ways, and this could be a little bit controversial, Kel, I often wonder, you know, whether it's worth the effort of going to some of these islands, and whether in fact they should actually be classified by ARRL DXCC committee as a legitimate country.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I say that is not because it's not there and people can't do it. I'm taking into account maybe there should be a ceiling on the amount amount that should be spent on something like this. And also you got to take in the human and equipment factor.
Yeah.
You're I mean, even up to the Kermadec, as you've just seen there on those, that's borderline
worth it. Yeah.
Borderline safety, you know, and
So something's going to go wrong one day.
Yeah, safety to human life and equipment and things like that. I think that's something which needs to be perhaps factored into what qualifies as a country or not. Now, I know instantly the comment below has just burst into action, I'm sure. With people with that, remember, this is my opinion.
Right? We're just shooting the breeze here. I mean, we pre-warned you.
And I'm not certain that I'm fully convinced on that too, because the moment you say, "Oh well, it's going to become a deleted country," well, I then come over to here and I go, here's all my QSL cards, but from here we have this little card which, that's not actually focusing properly.
I know, it's a bugger. Okay. It's focused down.
There you go. This little card says deleted countries. So now we go, okay, 1, neutral zone, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh my goodness.
7, 8. I mean, really, can you call us?
Is that Scarborough Reef there, middle right? What's that little
this one
there?
Yeah. That one there. It's Okino Torishima.
Okay, fine. Yeah, okay.
Sticks of stuff just sticking out of the ocean. Sorry, that camera's a bit naff, but
tell me about it.
And so we carry on, and I'm going, oh my word, they're all countries like Walvis Bay, Venda, a canal zone. These are all countries who have spent. Kingman Reef, the countries sort of agonised over getting, things like that.
Roly, just to let you know.
Yeah. Kingman Reef on 80 metres, I remember sweating bullets over getting that and trying to work with it. And now they say, oh, well, no, sorry, that's a deleted country. So I do know that if ARRL said, "Oh no, okay, well, we will now call Bouvet a deleted country," there would be a huge cry, and it's all right for me because I can say that because I've already got it. But there'd be many people who haven't got it who'd be going. So I do know the problems.
Okay,
absolutely.
So is ignoring what I call that subarctic, below 60 degrees, icebergs and all that stuff? I mean, everything else is relatively easy, right? Well, apart from North Korea, but it's
I don't know. I haven't done anything to sort of say Central or West Africa, for instance. And now I know a lot of the Russian boys are running around some of the countries in Africa at the moment, and it's not all a barrel of chips doing that either. I mean, particularly when you're in countries
geopolitical problem.
Yes. Not just, particularly countries that have no idea what amateur radio is like, and if you do have a radio, then
they want to bloody know about it.
There must be for nefarious means, So. Some of those countries, I'm sure, are not easy, and we do strike that a little bit sometimes around the Pacific, but having been to a lot of these Pacific countries in my official capacity, and dealing with the governments involved and so on like that, and dealing with the actual departments at the licensing and that sort of stuff. I've had the opportunity.
the words to use.
Yeah, and also had the opportunity to educate them, and sometimes even using myself as the example to educate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just going to go to the fridge here to get another drink of milk, but I can hear you, by the way, because I'm not wearing headphones. I just want to cover, Roly, and I've got something to say about this afterwards. The skill required, or do some people have got a natural twist, a natural bent to run a pile up, or is it learned? There we go.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one, Cal. I'm of the opinion that it's a learned skill, and from that point of view, what you do actually on a Friday morning or Friday afternoon, or every week you have a live scenario type thing. And I know our mate Tim does that occasionally on 10 meters, and there's a few other people that go live, so to speak. Well, you don't necessarily have to go live, but sitting there and running a pile up or trying to run multiple contacts as quick as you can, those skills are developed after a while.
Yeah.
And you soon, on CW, for instance, my ears will lock onto it can be several stations calling, but they're all subtly different, all at a subtle different pitch.
Yeah.
My ears lock onto the pitch that I want.
Yeah. And that's the best filter you can have.
And it certainly is.
Yeah.
And away you go. And I think it's the same thing with on sideband. I notice when I'm watching you, Cal, there, you sometimes actually pick up the call sign that's calling you because you recognize the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll pick up a certain tonal quality, something to do with the tonal quality of the voice. You may not have worked them before, but I listening to you on the stream, I can go, I know who's going to call next.
Okay,
and where you go.
And would you have done the same? Did sometimes I do it completely different to how you would have done it?
No, very, very similar indeed. Okay. I used to do quite a bit of contesting at one time, and contesting always develops those sort of skills. But certainly I would... you'd be a very, very brave person if you decided, I'm going to go out to... what's something about there? I'm going to go to Guernsey for 2 weeks and put on the DXpedition. Never ever done one before, but I'm going to do it and see what happens. Have a bit of practice at home first. I suggest. Yeah.
I'm wondering whether I should run a pile-up experience. I mean, no charge, just the people that actually want to do this. They could come in and do half an hour on 40 every now and again, you know.
Oh, that'd be fun, Kel, because a lot of it is when you've got 2 or 3 stations calling, your initial instinct is to go, what the heck? You know, I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
And so on, until your ears become attuned to, okay, right, that's the guy I'm listening to. And somehow your brain and your ears sort of filter out all the other stuff, and you can get, I got 2 letters out of that. I got A and a J. Right, AJ, that's all I need. Right, QRZ, the AJ station again, please.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
So there's an element of confidence, even if it's misplaced. It doesn't really matter, actually. It's one of the few times where you can, like, as the pile-up operator, you're allowed to kind of be the bully in a nice way, you know.
Well, as the DX station, yes, you're the one that's calling the shots. Yeah. And I mean, when you go QRZ JA and every Italian in the world comes back to you, I often at that stage will stop and wait for a few seconds, and then QRZ JA, QRZ JA only. Boom. Now, if the Italian comes back again, I'll stop and I'll say, I'm not quite sure that that Italy is part of Japan. Will you stand by just one moment, please? We'll get back to you. QRZ Japan. Now, don't whatever you do, give in.
Really?
No, because all you said now is, well, I wanted Japan, but I can be bullied around. I can be pushed around. But no, you say you never give in. You just go, it's Japan I want. And you work the JAs, and then when you finish the JAs, you go, thank you, Europe, for standing by. QRZ Europe.
Okay, so you give them a little bit of kudos for doing the job.
Those are a few subtleties and a few sort of tips. You learn those on the way through, eh? But no, never ever give in to somebody that decides that it's my turn now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually accused in the comments of being rude to someone, but he called me loud as punch, and just not as. But he didn't know my call sign. I thought he only had to wait another 5 seconds. He would have got it. You know?
Yeah, I can't understand that sort of mentality. ZL1BQD. Well, they don't call your call sign. It's really loud.
Yeah.
I haven't got you. Can you repeat your call sign? I haven't got your call sign. Can you repeat it?
It's different if they've made a mistake. But
and I'm thinking, well, what have you been doing for the last 20 minutes that you should have been listening to me?
I think you and I should get together and make some notes, and we'll do a little joint thing. We won't demonstrate or anything, but we'll just give some tips on how to be on each side of the pile up. Okay, how to run the pile up and how to be the other guy. Because that would be good. Probably SSB, but
there are differences between SSB and CW and even FT8. There are subtleties there that you can increase your chances perhaps with the FT8, but CW there are certain different ways of.
Okay, so let's just carry on another little bit, because I've got a couple of notes here. All right.
Yep.
I have not sponsored. I normally do it if somebody gets in contact with me and say there's these 5 guys, and every couple of years we go to such and such an island. We're looking for some antenna solutions. I normally find out how they're traveling, what they're taking, and I'll build them, a couple of antennas on a deal, And there's been some success, of DX commanders doing DXpeditions. I get lucky to supply a little pack of spares, because they're in the middle of nowhere, extra SO239 assemblies and whatever else. Yeah. And sometimes just a spare pole, just in case they have, they step on it, because I know what it's like being out and about, shit happens and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it would be remiss of me after 1 hour, 3 minutes, not to mention my own product, the one that actually makes my living and allows me to eat and buy nice gear to do streams like this.
Absolutely.
You've used a DX commander, an all-bound vertical, haven't you, on some of these islands?
Yep.
If you went back 23 years knowing what you knew now, and you could have access to that, would that be part of the skill? Would that be part of the
now that's a very, very interesting evolution, I think, and it's one which I've thought of a lot. Previous to recently, I guess. Actually, previous to me sort of touching base with you and getting a hold of a DX commander, I hadn't really considered verticals.
Yeah, and I believe they went out of fashion.
Yeah, they did go out of fashion quite some time ago, and I think to the detriment of amateur radio, really. Well, no, I'm not being derogatory at all, but when the Yagi type antennas came out and so on, they were the do all and end all. And they work. They work very, very well, particularly if you want some back to front ratio and things like that. And a bit of gain, they certainly do work. But the problem is, I think the baby was thrown out with the bathwater, and verticals were neglected a lot. Yeah. And of course, there's the almost the conventional fallacy that verticals are always noisy, so can't use them anyway. Well, I think of recent times, amateurs around the world have discovered, hey, verticals are not so bad after all. Yeah, sometimes they may be a bit noisy, but then so is horizontal polarization quite noisy at times too. But there are times actually when having a vertical is very, very handy indeed. And so nowadays, what I take with me is normally an Expedition, DX Commander Expedition model. The reason I take that is simply because it fits into my suitcase, as we discussed before. And then I'll run some sort of horizontal antenna as well, normally a dipole. Simply, a dipole is easy because there's most places I go in around the Pacific, there are coconut trees there, which are begging to have something hang off the top, hanging out of the top of them.
Yeah.
Or even flat top between two trees.
Yeah.
So why not use it?
Absolutely.
And,
I did the same.
And now having a DX Commander vertical and a horizontal gives me a number of choices that previous I'd never had, and I wish I did have.
Yeah. Now, I think from home, and I just want to translate this into DXpeditions, say 40 meters, then this one is longer, and you've got the coax coming to here, and this is a reflector.
Yep.
To give you instead of assuming seawater, you're now getting a pattern which is looking like this, giving you another, maybe, I don't know, certainly another 3 dB that way and some front to back that way. Would you now, what you want, what ever use that technique on the DX?
Yes, indeed. In fact, the last time I went up to, where was it? Cook Islands, I think it was. Might have been Papua New Guinea. I did exactly that. And now what I could do is hop out and just shift that reflector to wherever I wanted, to push the lobe, so to speak.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not as handy as a Yagi on a rotator, but it certainly works.
Yeah,
it really works very well.
Right.
More, not so much from a. I feel it's not so much from a forward gain perspective, but it's certainly to get some back to front ratio, particularly if you're trying to work.
See that with the parasitic, do you? For real?
Yeah. Okay. Particularly if you're trying to work some of those European stations from the Pacific, and you got Indonesia, Japan, China
on your back door,
thumping in almost 24/7. So it's nice to be able to get just a little bit of front to back. Yeah.
And how much does it turn them down? 10 dB?
Well, it's hard to tell.
It's really difficult.
It's certainly, well, what is a perception of it's definitely audible, so it's greater than 3 dB.
Yeah.
Definitely greater than 3 dB.
Dron was suggesting that instead of doing the parasitic, we could do we could actually have 2-phase verticals, but it's more clock.
I have done 2-phase verticals things too, but now I've got to take an extra couple of lengths of 75 ohm cable to create your delay lines and things like that. I'm very, very conscious of the amount of weight that I take.
I want to talk about call signs. You can't just turn up at these islands and invent a call sign, can you?
No. So, no, you can't.
Is that part of the planning then?
If your country has a CEPT agreement with the country you're going to, then it's just a case of going down to the authorities and pay your bill, and They will then
issue a unique call sign for that country on a temporary basis.
No, they won't give you a unique call sign, but they will allow you to operate M0, MCX, or whatever it is, portable ZL.
Yeah.
So your call sign will be ZL
stroke M0 MCX stroke portable.
Yeah.
I don't even need to go to the authorities then. I could just do that, couldn't I?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
How do these people get custom call signs then?
Yeah.
Is that just
a custom call sign? Is a custom call sign is meant to be for the resident ham radio operators in that country. I'm dead fortunate, and I know I am, in that in dealing with many of the government departments in these countries and so on, that I've convinced them that I come there enough times that I'm a local anyway. So, okay, we'll give you P29RR.
Yeah.
And so just about anywhere throughout the Pacific, if you hear the suffix RR, is
that's normally you.
It'll be me, FK0RR, ZK3RR, E51RR, 5 Whiskey 0 RR, H44RR, P29RR, 4 Whiskey 6 RR, A35RR, H40RR. Well, here's a different one. 8Q7 from Maldives. That was 8Q7XR.
Wow.
And Niue, they E6RR had already been taken, so I got E6AR for Niue.
Fantastic. My goodness. Well, at least I can remember my call signs. You had to look yours up.
Yeah. Well, I had to look up the prefixes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, I mean, if there's a workaround, take it by all means. But if not, and you've got a SEPT agreement, then you'll just have to have a nice complicated call sign.
Yeah.
ZL stroke, whatever. And also, a lot of these very rare islands are, scientific interest, places. You can't just turn up with a boat, can you?
No, you can't. For instance, Kermadec or Auckland Islands, you can't just turn up with a boat and decide, okay, I'm going to operate. They are closed up now with the Department of Conservation, so you have to have Department of Conservation permission to land. So it's the call signs and everything like that. Every New Zealand operator can operate from Kermadec just by changing their ZL1 to a ZL9 or a ZL8 or a ZL
location
or a ZL7 for Chatham. It's the same with you. You can go to MW or MM or MI, can't you? Right?
Regional identifier, yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, it's exactly the same here in New Zealand for those outer islands. However, unless you got a permit to land, you're out in the waters.
Got it. And then that's government departments, paperwork, files, admin fees.
All sorts of things. You have to.
If you were taking a couple of scientists with you, it's a hell of a lot easier, I would have thought.
Even way back when we're 30, 40 years ago, when I was doing those islands here, our ticket to the island was, particularly in the Kermadecs, was to, went to Auckland University, found a couple of scientists that wanted to study the song that the local Tuis sing up in the Kermadecs.
Okay. Well, they wanted to record it or something.
Yeah, because apparently they sing a different dialect to the Tuis here in New Zealand on the mainland. And they wanted to study that. And they also wanted to study why the rats on the island, which was a normal Norwegian rat, which is, a normal rat. These were about the size of small kittens. They were huge things. And they wondered why they had they've all been eradicated now, but before they eradicated them,
I've heard the cats and the rats have all gone now.
They wanted to try and determine where did this mutation come from, or how did it happen?
Okay.
So we said, all right, okay. How many guys you want to take? I think they had 1, 2, 3, 4,
Just
5.
Just pause there. Pause there. Are you off upstairs? Okay, that's fine. I'm still on live with Roly here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I have a real life as well. Sorry, Roly.
Yeah, we had 5 scientists that we said we will
Sponsor.
we'll shout you a free trip up to the Kermadix to do your studies.
Yeah.
Incidentally, you'll need communications on the island, of course.
Yeah.
So we've got
We'll supply
3.
that.
We go between 3 guys. We can supply you all the communication you need on the island.
It just so happens they didn't need it.
And so they didn't need us 24/7. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what else would you do if you got an amateur radio license in a rare DX island and so on like that? And, yeah. It was a sad day when we got shipwrecked and we had to stay there for another 2 weeks.
Another half a pig.
Yeah, I don't say that too loudly. Gail might hear me, but yeah.
Okay, but of course, yeah. Oh, that's tremendous. There was another thing about gear, I think, but do you, in the old days, what coax 20, 30 years ago, were you just taking like regular 213, or what were you doing on the coax front?
Yeah, it was a difficulty, that one. Fortunately, I was the agency for ICOM in those days, so I had my own amateur radio shop. So it wasn't too much of a big deal to take a roll of 213 with us. So, but 213.
I mean, that was presumably the popular 10mm coax of the day.
I think it was called RG8X, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, RG8X, I believe it was.
Okay.
It's the same diameter as 213 and so on.
Yeah, okay.
It was a foam-filled low-loss cable.
Right. And what would you take now, 20, 30 years later?
Okay, I think, well, if the same wasn't available, I'd certainly get hold of Messi and Poloni, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
They have some tremendous cables, they in fact they supplied me some cable there to take up to Papua New Guinea to put in the station up there.
Yeah.
And the nice thing was it's a special cable which is tropicalized. So it's been
impregnated,
manufactured specifically for that sort of an environment. So
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, those sort of cables are available now. They don't come cheap. I know that. But I think it's still worthwhile, the investment. If you're going to do anything, certainly if you're going to do a little bit of this sort of stuff, then invest in a 50-meter length of one of Messi and Poloni's cables.
Yeah.
And
just keep it nice.
Yeah, and keep it nice. And they certainly work extremely well and will do you forever, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look after it, though.
One of my cameras has just gone off, and that'll be the one up here, because I think that one's still working here.
Yeah, that one's still working.
Yeah. Something else.
It's always
I forget what I'm going to ask.
It's always a problem when you're by yourself, or you're trading off weight and convenience for, well, what you're trying to achieve, what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, cable is heavy. No way around it.
No, it is. All right, my last question for you tonight then, here in the UK. Well, it's not a question. I'm going to answer it myself, and then I want to see if you can agree with me. So some of my first ever pile-ups were I managed to get a slot on just a regular old-fashioned special event, Saturday afternoon station on 40 meters, whatever. And, you're with a club or whatever, and you put a bit of a show on, and it's not particularly loud maybe, but everybody knows that, they're twiddling around a VFI on. They hear the bit of a baloney going on. They go, oh, these people are putting a bit of a show on. I'll join in the melee, right?
Yeah.
They just do, right?
Yeah.
And the special event stations in the UK, and I don't know the US, and I don't know about ZL these days, but you can always find some sort of special event going on, right? You just put your name out. I'd like to practice, could I have a half-hour slot, please, on the 40 meters, because 40 meters, it's easy on 100 watts during the day to get a local pile-up, it just, that's what I found myself. It's given me a lot of pile-up experience over the last.
Yep, and that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to encourage to start off with. There's a couple of things there that are important. Is if you're only operating Nevis type stations, at least you're operating in a language that you understand.
Good point.
All right, and you get and so on. Like here in New Zealand, it'll be New Zealand and Australia. At least it's a language I can understand.
That's right.
You start extending you start extending out a little bit further, and now you're starting to get German accents, Swedish accents, your Dutch accents, and all of these different accents coming in. Now that's just an added complication to something which you're only just got your feet into. So. Yeah, it's important, just to start off local.
But if you wanted to run a pile up, go and get some experience somehow. And one of the ways of doing it is either by calling. I used to get a pile up myself from the Scout Hut, but it was Tim, me. It was normally a team of 2 or 3 of us, and kind of very quickly people realised we were just putting some show on, and everybody just wanted to join in the fun, as they were twiddling around a VFO. And I could get a pile up on a Saturday afternoon, even on 100 watts. So it depends. I don't know if you've ever heard, the Russians do this quite a lot. They're 59, and you say, my name's Carol, thanks. I didn't even know his name, but that's all he wants. He just wants contacts, right? I'm about to make a video, funny enough, Roly, of how to have a more meaningful, longer QSO. And if you're on the screen today, about 36 minutes in, we had Nuno on, and that was a very meaningful, long QSO. And you can do that, by the way, by asking questions. If you want a meaningful QSO and you've got a reasonable, S8 plus, just ask a question. Hey, your audio sounds nice. What microphone is that? Sorry, Roly.
Yeah, exactly. Our friend Tim G5, what's his name? TM. He hops in his car 10 meters and has a bit of fun in his lunchtime. And now, great. And some of the live streams I've listened to there with Tim, he's doing really good. Gets a little pile up, and nothing particular special about it, but gets a little pile up, and away he goes. Okay, fine. And I think the stations at the other end get the idea that, okay, he's here for a limited amount of time, perhaps just his lunch hour. That's why he's rattling through them. But good. Yeah, that sort of thing works well.
Tambert's just asked. Here it is. It's just coming through. I bet this Friday everyone's going to ask Cal what microphone he's using, just have a meaningful conversation. So I don't think you're on the stream. I streamed this afternoon. It was late at night for you. You were probably in bed. 36 minutes, I think, into the stream. I got called by a guy with a 7300, and I'm not joking. The audio was fantastic, and somebody looked it up on the internet. I can't remember what it was called now. I'm going to make a little video about it, and he's sending me the wiring diagram because a little 7300. It's a condenser mic, needs the voltage, He sounded fantastic, and he ended up about nearly a 25-minute QSO. This guy. He sounded great with this $30 microphone, and he gave me all the readouts on the 7300. I've got a compressor here, volume here, and all that. But anyway, about 90% into the conversation, he went, "Oh, wait a minute, are you Callum?" I went, "Yes." The bed dropped.
Right.
It was funny. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think if you could give a round of applause on the live chat for young Roly here, all right, who's taking something out of his day,
right,
and then we can thank you for that, because that was jolly good of him to come along and have a chat. But I think I need a vote whether you would like Roly and I just chat about pile-ups and breaking pile-ups, managing pile-ups, both sides of the coin. I think that'd be fun. Would you like that as well, Roly? Would it be a bit of it's nice to impart that knowledge, isn't it?
I mean, that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, because there are one or two secrets. I mean, my call sign is a sort of a call sign, really.
Is it?
Getting the Quebec Bravo, Quebec Delta. The Quebec is always difficult.
Yeah.
And then many times people don't get the Delta at the end. And and when they don't get it, I mentally go, I know why, because I've gone ZL1 Bravo, Quebec Delta.
Yep, there we are. Yeah. Well, we'll cover all that, because we've all done that. And if you listen to my live streams as well, you'll hear people will go, Mike 7, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. I can't hear Charlie. I've got no idea what it is.
Yep, you've got it.
And if you've got a power meter on your radio, particularly if you're new, you can watch it. Watch the power. You know what I mean? And then you go, oh, wait a minute. It's right down here when I'm saying these letters. Why is it not up here?
Yeah, exactly. All sorts of little things like that. And that would make a great video, Cal, I'm sure.
Not
saying that you or I are the experts, but we, between the two of us, we have a good number of years of experience. I won't say how much.
A couple of hundred, probably a couple of hundred, mate. What I would say is that until you experience a pile-up where one day you go, do you know what? It feels like I actually know what I'm doing, even though you're still getting it wrong. But there's a day that hits you, go, oh, it becomes very addictive. I tell you what it's a bit like to me, Roly. It's a bit like being an air traffic controller, but there's no chance of anything crashing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just being very busy. And I love my head being very, very busy. It's probably my ADHD, but I really like that. Super busy. You can't think of anything else, can you?
No, you're right. It is addictive, I must admit. And, but it is also a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, of course it is.
And there have been some really, really delightful times where I've been on a DXpedition, and I can do this with the Japanese, not too many other people, the Japanese.
Okay.
On particularly on CW, and I'm watching my rate, and I'm going, I'm on 4 QSOs a minute. I wonder if I can get another one in here.
Yeah.
Yep, we're up to 5 QSOs a minute now.
Yeah.
Now I'm really having to start to concentrate hard, because N1MM just told me that I'll just tip the 6 QSOs per minute.
Yeah.
And I'm going, great. Now you can only do that with a very, very cooperative pile-up, and the JOs are really good. And those are little sort of motivators, or little competitions I have within myself. Yeah.
A couple of times I've actually made it public. I said, let's just go over some really fast numbers now, guys. Just try and encourage them along. Yeah, good. All right. Well, I've really enjoyed chatting to you tonight, Roly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been great.
Coming along.
It's been really great.
Good. Hopefully, we haven't done many disasters, because we never got that far. But I'm sure there's a few. I've had a couple, and I've broken stuff as well. But the bottom line is, most of these DXpeditions go off without a hitch. That's the reality, because enough planning went into it to start with.
Well, look forward to the comments below there, Cal.
Indeed. Fantastic. Roly, I'll hit the end broadcast, but you and I will still be in the green room. So, guys, all the best now. A very good night.
Cheers for now.
And 73.
Greetings from ZL.
Greetings from M-Land. Or is it G-Land?
G-Land.